What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. So, today we're going to do a video, a prison video. This video kind of has two different things in it. But to me, the main thing is how, like I always say, there's no such thing as a frivolous conversation in prison. You got to be careful. It is a good practice in there to be mindful of what comes out of your mouth. And think about what you say. You know, for those people that say that I talk slow and it's annoying, hey, Holmes, then I'm not your cup of tea. But I like to think about what I say before I say it. So this video, this story took place in New Folsom. And they had shut down a yard. I think it was a yard in Lancaster. I'm not sure what yard it was. One of the yards in Lancaster they had shut down. And they started sending dudes from that yard, those yards, whatever, to other prisons. And I remember there was a heavier presence on the yard when these guys came. And I remember the cops saying that they didn't want it to become a bloodbath. Now, that obviously put people on their toes, like, who the fuck's coming, right? So these vatos come, and just so happens a yard that they land on, a couple of dudes land on our yard. One of the dudes that lands had been part of the leadership on the yard he came from. And so he gets there, and when he gets to the fish tank, you know, we get his paperwork. We look over his paperwork, and everything's fine for now, you know, and it doesn't just stop there, but you know, he can come out to the yard, he's clear. So his paperwork checks out. Then he comes out, and him and his friends, you know, they're sticking together. And, you know, so we go and talk to him. And he lets it be known. Well, one of his camaradas lets it be known, like, hey, Holmes, that vato, he used to be on the mess over there. Okay. So it was a easy thing to come up with immediately. We're like, hey, we have a seat open. Let's see who he was in contact with. And it also gives us an in to pay more attention and getting good with these vatos that just came. Because like 4 or 5 of them had came. And so it gives us better ability to pull them closer. Because they're going to all be loyal to him off the top. And we need him to think that everything is cool while we, you know, run the make. So we approach him, and he's like, yeah, Holmes, yeah, I appreciate it. And he's like, you know, whatever. We have a conversation, and so he says, yeah, he accepts a seat after we find out who he's, you know, representing. And obviously, initially, it's like, we're going to keep him on a need-to-know basis. He's going to think he knows everything, but he's not. He's not. Not till everything's cleared, but at least his guard's going to be down. So we tell him, look, Holmes, in the next day or two, there's going to be a pegada that go down, right? And we're going to be hitting some dudes, and you don't got to worry about it. The vote's already in. You don't have to, you know, put your name on this one. You know, it's already done, but we're just giving you the heads up. So make sure on that day you don't come out strapped up, you know, because they are going to strip us all out on the yard. You know, I don't know how they do it in Lancaster, but... And something I wanted to point out, I almost forgot. This goes back to how people... Look, I'm going to just be blunt. They came from a 270 level 4, and it was Lancaster. And so the vatos on the yard with us don't feel that's a very serious place. It's a 270. That's one thing. And it's not one of the 270. Like Calipatria, that place has always been known as a 270. It rocks. You can lose your life there. Lancaster was known. When it first opened, maybe. But where these guys came from, it was like he wasn't looked at on the same level as far as being a soldado. He wasn't looked at on the same level as like vatos that were on a 180 coming out of the shoe, putting in work, having been up there in the Bay and had conversations and got their schooling directly from where it needed to come from, right? Now, back to this. So on the day the pegada's going to happen, we come out to yard and, the dudes in the leadership position always met up at a certain spot. And so we're sitting there and he comes up. And so I'm like, hey, Holmes, it's going down today, right? And he's like, oh, fuck yeah, I didn't know that. I'm like, what do you mean, Holmes? I told you that yesterday that it was going down today, Holmes. I said, you came off strap? And he goes, yeah. I go, well, can you hoop it? And he's like, it's not wrapped. And so other vatos are like, man. So vatos start walking away from him like, man, I'm not even going to be around this. So I go, well, listen, let's go over here and you can get rid of it. I was like, you're not gonna be able to bury it because you walked over here. They have one camera in on the yard that can follow people. And I told him you can't bury it, Holmes. I go, you're gonna have to get rid of it. And he goes, well, what should I do? And I'm like, what the fuck? How in the fuck was this vato in a leadership position and he's doing shit like this, right? And doesn't know how to get rid of it. I said, let's go over to the bathroom, Holmes. You can flush it. So he's like, and so now he's losing a piece. It's his personal, but still, he's losing a piece now. So I'm like, look, we'll go over to the bathroom and you can flush it. That way they don't see you trying to throw something and go and jack you up. So we go over to the bathroom and I'm standing outside of the it's just a concrete wall and about waist high and a bunch of pissers in there, well, shitters, whatever. So he goes in there and then boom. Because I tell him it's going to go down right now. He goes, what time? I said, whenever the shoot. I said, right here, we tell the shooters who their target is, Holmes. And when they feel they have the right time, boom, hit them. And I go, so I don't know, homie, but I'm pretty sure it's going to go down any minute. So he's coming out of the bathroom and boom, it's going down. And I look over and I see it and I'm like, hey, Holmes, they're on him. Let's go. So he's coming out. And when he comes out, the cops see it. The gunner, get out. Down. Well, hold on. For the rest of you guys, those of you guys, somebody said it the other day. Where is it, man? Down on the yard. Down on the yard. That's what they started screaming. So we walk a few more feet. You always, regardless of what is going to go on, whenever the yard goes down, you always scan the yard. Make sure your people aren't involved in something. So we take a few more, walk away. And because he's like, hey, they didn't want to go down. They didn't want to go down. So what, Holmes? They don't know whose it is. So we get down on the yard. And, these dudes are doing their work. Well, as they're doing their work, this vato's watching, and I'm watching him out of the corner of my eye. He's sitting on my right side, and I'm watching him out of the corner of my eye, and he's like, he looks at me and goes, hey, Holmes, they don't try to get away? I said, nah, it's not. This is not that type of yard, Holmes. They're going to take you to, he goes, so they try to kill everybody? I said, the Huda might kill one of them, yeah. He goes, even for a check? I said, yes. They're going to take you to the dirt and whatever happens, happens to you. And he's like, And I could see it bothered him where he was. And I'm thinking, this is bad, eh? What kind of pegadas were they doing over there where he was at? And he's on the leadership and he's responding to it this physically. So I'm like, I'm going to have to really look into this cat. Then he decides to have a conversation with me that prior to being in in Lancaster, he had been in Mule Creek. The alarm started going off. I said, "Oh, is that right?" I said, "How was it over there?" I'm not going to ask him how long he was there. No. I already see how nervous this vato is just from a pegada. I need this dude as comfortable as possible. But he's got 2 strikes on him right now. I was like, "How was it over there?" And he was like, "Well, I wasn't there long, eh? You know, this and this and that." And he's telling me the story. But he was there. He says, I was there, you know, this long, and it was over the curfew. It was a 90-day curfew over there. And he said he was there for, I don't know how many months, but he was there a little bit over, right? And he said that he had got into something with somebody over being there that long. And I'm like, oh. I said, but you got the blessings from old boy to be in the position you were in Lancaster, right? And he goes, yeah. I go, then what are you worried about for? What are you worried about it for? But in my head, I'm knowing I'm going to find out everything. I'm going to find out. He gave me the name of the guy he bumped heads with. He told me how long he was there. And now I have a lot to work with. And your physical response wasn't right to this pegada. You are definitely not cut out for the position you're in, and you accepted it. So we're gonna, and I'm this is all in my head. I'm having a regular conversation. This is why I say there's no frivolous conversations. It isn't for me to talk. He's doing all the damage, potential damage, because he can't shut up. Because I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, damn, I told this dude I was in Mule Creek. Now I got to fucking explain it. But you're making it worse the more you say. He could have just said he was in Mule Creek and, you know, but he cleared it. It got clear. Boom. Just so you know, homie, you know, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, gracias. But the response to that pegada that we're watching, it just wasn't good. So after the squad gets there, everybody calls them the IGI. They're not the fucking IGI. They're the ISU. Stop saying IGI, especially even vatos in the joint, because they want to make it sound more serious than it's a fucking ISU, Investigative Services Unit, the ones with the black badges. You can call them gooners, the goon squad. They are not IGI. There's only one IGI. He's a lieutenant. They're ISU. So ISU's on the yard. The goon squad's on the yard. And one of them that used to be the yard cop. I'm yard crew. That's why I'm out there all the time. He used to be one of the bosses for the yard crew. He's on the squad, the goon squad now, right? And he walked by, and he didn't see me at first. He was walking by, and he happened to like glance to his left, and he did that. He just exactly like this. That was horrible for the guy sitting next to me. The gooners know who hit the yard. They know their C-file. They know everything they need to know. That cop fucked up. When he did the double take, something's wrong with this cat. He says, damn, Holmes, why that hood look at me like that? I said, I don't know. He's probably just wondering who I was sitting with. He knows what I do here. He knows who's who on the yard. He's probably just wondering who I was sitting with. And he's like, damn, that was weird, eh? This vato is just... That should have never came out of his mouth. Why'd he look at me like that? If anything, you should be like, who the fuck is that vato? There's nothing tough coming out of this guy. Everything is from a fear base. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen with this dude now. What needs to happen. So the way they do it They call back everybody off the yard. And then once everybody's off the yard, the only ones on the yard are going to be the group involved. So now there's nothing but Southerners on the yard. Everyone else is gone. You know, it can take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on how the Judas want to be. So they call one block. He's in one block. No. Yes, he was in one block. Yep. He shakes my hand, he gets up and he goes. And I tell him, hey, Holmes, we're going to be on lockdown 2 weeks. That's what it used to be. Pegada, by this time, pegada, 2 weeks, we're back off, right? I told him, we'll be off in 2 weeks, homie, don't trip. All right. So he jams. Well, the dude that had one block for us, we wound up stripping him of his position. He's a fucking idiot. He starts walking with him, right? They're going back to one block. And during the lockdown, I think we're 3 days in, I get word. His name, I want to say his name because it's irrelevant at this point, but I won't. I'm just going to say the initial was P. The guy that we had put on, you know, in a position of leadership, a position of authority, because we wanted to pull him in to find out. All it took was a couple of days and one pegada to find out everything. We didn't even need everything else, but we're going to have to run the make, right? So P did a suicide attempt in the shower about 3 days into the lockdown. So we're like, wow. At least we avoided another lockdown. But we're curious. Like, we need to know this suicide attempt. How did it happen? What did he do? What he had a Sally like? What happened? So when the yard comes back up for the Southerners, we go out to the yard, and I asked the dude that had the block for us, C. His name's C. I call him over and I said, hey, Holmes, what happened to P, Holmes? And he's like, oh, man, and he's laughing about it. He's like, man, that motherfucker went out to the showers and like scratched his wrist with a razor, and when the Judas didn't he didn't get a response, he laid down in the shower on the wet fucking nasty floor and just laid there, and they were telling him, get up in the shower. Get up in the shower. He wouldn't get up in the shower. And then they came in and they got him. I said, hey, Holmes, what was his Sally doing? He goes, his Sally was, I said, well, why didn't somebody call him over, give him a strap and tell him, hey, Holmes, handle that? Like, it's obvious what he was doing, right? So he's like, oh, well, you know, this and that. Excuses. And I'm like, when I had a discussion with him, he goes, I heard. And I said, what you mean you heard? He goes, when we were walking back, he was really nervous, and I noticed it, and I was like, what's up, you good? And he says that he tells C about the conversation that he had with me. He says he thinks he fucked up. And C asked him, how did you fuck up? And he says, I told homeboy that I was in Mill Creek, that I had been in Mill Creek. And C goes, that was the worst one. That dude goes through every detail. When you talk to him, he dissects everything you say, homie. He goes, that vato, he goes, if everything checks out, you're all right, Holmes. And believe it, he's going to find out. And he said, and if anything's wrong, you're going to find out. And I tell C, why the fuck you tell him that? And he said, because I thought it was funny that he was scared. It's not supposed to happen like that. Whenever you're on a yard and you're in a leadership position, the only way people get to leave that yard that have it coming is on their back, on a gurney, in a helicopter. It is a horrible look for the leadership when somebody's able to fake a suicide attempt or go to the authorities. Prison is not a place. You see all the murders that are happening, all the deaths that are occurring. Prison is not a place to play around. Prison is not a place to have a frivolous conversation. Just talk to talk. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. This is another one of those cautionary tales, man. You know, this is why I trip out when people talk so frivolously on YouTube. People are having these beefs. You know, I know there are people behind the walls that don't like that I do these stories, some of these stories, and I don't get it, because those of you that know me know what I know, what I've been a part of. I never go into any of that stuff. Never have at any point. Those are my secrets. Those are our secrets. I just wish the raza would get off that hamster wheel. Over 100 years and we're still doing the same thing, or not we. I'm not. I'm trying to help your family and your loved ones see. Ain't nothing glamorous about going to prison. It is not a badge of honor. No one in there enjoys being there. So why are people out here in a hurry to get there? You better ask yourself that. That's my video for today, man. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I don't know why I can't talk today. I apologize. But let me do that again, man, because it's important. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out.